Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 78. It is July 6, 2020. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
They think we're stupid, and we are.
And we are. Terrence Chan.
I am so happy to be here during this show because not only is WSOP started, but our co-host in Nevada, D. Negs, is in it, and he is not wearing a hockey jersey, which means you and I don't have to embarrass the shit out of ourselves this week.
Oh my God, those were not going well for us, especially some guy, a couple of guys who like to pride ourselves on our hockey knowledge. We got stumped pretty hard, so we're going to just continue those out of pure embarrassment. By the way, I got a webcam, so I'm stepped into the 2020 era here, and hopefully this will be better, and people will stop yelling at me in the comments. You mentioned it, Terrence. Daniel Negreanu in Las Vegas playing. It's event number 6, right? This is the 600 PLO 8 or better.
Yeah, I am distracted, so you guys are off the hook with the jersey game. Back though, I'll get you some semen type, random ones that are out there. Yeah, we are currently playing the PLO 6 max, 8 or better, all kinds of things, and we are on the bubble. Its tournament is currently hand for hand, so 128 left, pays 126. We are not in jeopardy, not like we care. We're doing quite good. It's been a fun week. Earlier, I was, streaming because I've been doing a schedule Monday to Friday. For those of you listening, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be streaming what I'm doing on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all simultaneously, all completely live, where you won't be able to see my whole cards, but I will tell you at the end of the hand what I did have. Today was a special test. We had Amanda for the entire hour, and it was my most fun stream for sure.
Let's cover this because you're a content machine right now. As you said, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You're also doing, because everybody loved the World Series of Poker blogs that you did, right? You roll around the Rio. Each day it would be like a half an hour blog every time during the live World Series of Poker. Well, now the online version, obviously harder to have, a daily vlog. So you've gone to twice a week, and you're going to do, was it Thursdays and Saturdays or Sundays?
Yeah, I'm looking at roughly, and again, it could change depending on schedule or what's going on, but looking to do 2 vlogs a week. We've, just released one today. So my plan is to record a vlog on Sunday and on Wednesday with different types of content. Obviously, it's not as, engaging with a lot of different people because I'm not at the Rio, in the back hallway seeing Phil Hellmuth do some crazy shit and having my camera ready. But I am just trying to give people a glimpse into my lifestyle, what I've been doing. A lot of people continually ask me, they saw my shred transformation, whatever, and they ask for recipes and things that I'm eating. So I've been sharing a little of that stuff, whether you like it or not, a little bit of golf, a little bit of just kind of vegging on the couch. I didn't want to do every day because I thought every day will become a little bit monotonous. So like, okay, I wake up and I go to the couch and I play, so it just what I did. I wanted to make sure that we keep it fresh. So in addition, as you said, to the 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 1 hour, we're also doing 2 vlogs where I'll do some more hand breakdowns as we go.
And we're going to slip the DAT Poker Podcast in when we can. We'll find a spot like we are right now. You're one tabling. You're just about to get into the money, so we're going to continue on.
And I was able to figure out how to mute the sounds because I wasn't sure if the software could do it. Oh, we figured it out. So.
If you need to jump out and play a hand, let us know. But we'll jump into some stuff. The World Series Poker Online obviously is the big topic this week. We're going to get into that in a minute. First, Daniel, you mentioned it. So the shed is over. The shed now starts.
Yeah, it's been great. I always, for once in my life, I just wanted to be able to see abs. That was just a life goal I've had, and I was never really able to achieve it because life happens and, you get sidetracked and whatever. So finally I got on a really good plan with a guy who really knows his shit, a German, who's very analytical, logical, practical, who came up with who does vegan meal and exercise plans that actually really work. One of the biggest things I learned was as a vegan, you get probably 10 times the fiber you need. And the question is fiber is really good for you, but too much fiber isn't. And a lot of people who try to go vegan, they end up trying to use beans as a primary protein source, and they just fart a lot. Okay. I watch these guys, the 2 buff dudes on YouTube, pretty interesting show if you want to check it out. They'll do we tried 30 days on keto and here's what happened. We did 30 days carnivore. We did 30 days, and they do all these different diets as big buff guys. and sort of at the end kind of give you the pros and cons. And they're very respectful of each diet. They're not like super preachy about anything. They're really good. So what the fuck was I taught? Why did I bring that up? I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Did they eat too many beans when they were for their vegan?
Oh yeah,
months?
like he said, they actually said during the vegan diet that they got a really good pump and they felt like they had immense amounts of energy because of all the carbs. But like they said that they probably would have been kicked out of the gym because what they did is they didn't know like what vegan diet like Fritz does. They tried to do like no tofu, nothing processed, like just beans and rice. And like that's a shit ton of beans, literally. It's like you'll shit a ton of beans out your ass if you eat that many. So, but it was interesting to watch, and it's worth it. Like call them two buff dudes. They do intermittent fasting. They try everything. You have an idea for them, throw it their way, and they'll try it.
Nice. Daniel, Terrence, did you put this in the notes? The Max Silver pull-up prop bet?
Yeah, there's sort of, well, two things are related. So Daniel, mentioned you cut down to, what was it, 138 pounds from 170-ish. You got smaller than me. You made me the fat guy. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and now your plan is to get bigger. But it was interesting because I talked to Max Silver last year at the World Series, and he was overweight at the time, and he told me about this 20 pull-up bet, and I was like, oh, that's actually a really cool bet, because I think the problem with weight loss bets is like weight loss is a really easy thing to manipulate. I mean, it's not hard, it's not easy to lose weight. I don't mean to say that, but like actually having like an achievable goal of something like 20 pull-ups, I really like that, because it's like an actual fitness thing. It it gets you to lose weight, but you also kind of have to do it the right way, because you have to be fit enough to do the 20 pull-ups. But for you, Daniel, before we wanted to go into it, I saw that Olivier Bousquet asked you, like, how come you want to get big? Like, what are your goals going in? Like, do you want to be able to do 20 pull-ups? Do you want to be able to run a 6-minute mile? Do you want to be able to bench press, twice your body weight? Do you have some goals for the rest of 2020?
Yeah, well, so I can do 20 pull-ups. It's like the type that he was talking. These ones are tougher when you go with your hands out. But
the overhand, yeah.
Yeah, those are much more difficult because it's much more shoulder. But when you're using bicep and back, like I can do 20 now. So I don't have any specific goals along those lines outside of just like really going through the program. Actually, I would say this. The ultimate goal is to go through this year where I get to a great maintenance weight that I feel comfortable carrying around. And no longer, he calls it intuitive eating, where no longer am I like counting every calorie. It's like I weigh everything. I'm weighing my peanut butter, all this kind of stuff. So I want to do like basically a year where I really get ingrained with having the body that I've always wanted, and also having the flexibility to have a couple glasses of wine if I want, to not have to count every calorie, and just kind of intuitively get an idea of what, is required of me to maintain, the build that I've got. So I guess the ultimate goal would be that sort of freedom of not, living like, because actually what I'm doing, and you can do this on any diet, it's called the flexible diet, really. Like you can do that vegan, meat, whatever, it doesn't matter. All the flexible means is that you have a calorie goal, you have macro goal. So you have to hit a certain amount of protein, carbs, and protein. It doesn't matter how you get it. Flexible goal lets you eat whatever the hell you want, as long as it's within your macros. So it's essentially what, we do, although we do it within a meal plan. Like in my meal plan twice a week, is a treat where I get to eat Oreo cookies. Like, and I think that's a good thing too for your own sanity, right? You don't want to like freaking sit there and like, I mean, if you're, let's say for example, Terrence, like only eat grilled chicken and broccoli, like forever. Like it's pretty fucking boring after a while. You want to have some fun, right?
Yeah. I always ask because I think one of the things I decided I wanted to be able to do in quarantine was I wanted to get to about like a 2.5 times my body weight deadlift. So for me, I'm like a little under 150 right now. So I wanted to be able to get to like a 375 pound deadlift. I'm pretty far from that right now. I have 305 pounds in weights. I actually have we're actually sold out of plates because you can't buy gym equipment anywhere during the pandemic. So I have to wait until the store brings
eBay. I found some on eBay. It's the only place I found stuff.
Yeah, other people selling stuff. So that's sort of my goal for this. But Max Silver, Adam, you mentioned he had a bet. I believe it was John Jawanda, and it was about a year ago. I think it was during the World Series that he could do 20 pull-ups. And now Max at this time was quite overweight. I mean, not you see more overweight in the poker room for sure, but I think he was about.
By the way, just to interrupt real quick, John Jawanda had this bet offered to him a while ago, and he did it. So that's where it was inspired. Like someone bet John Jawanda.
But I don't think John Jawanda's never been significantly overweight anytime I've ever seen him.
still, it's tough to do 20 pull-ups. If
Yes.
you don't have any upper body strength. Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? So actually, Jawanda has this information that it's doable, and he still offered it to Max. Max, I think, I don't know how tall he is, but he's probably about 230, 235 pounds. I think he's maybe like 5'10" or so. He's not particularly big, so he had some weight to lose. He's also got two young kids. I think one's like under a year and one's like 3, so that's a really tough time to get on a fitness program. But he got himself down to about 165 pounds. He actually contacted me about a week out asking me about weight cutting, and I said, well, you got to be pretty conservative with your weight cutting, because yes, it's really useful to weigh less. If you weigh less, you can definitely do more pull-ups. But the way I do weight cutting is I dehydrate my body, and I just basically feel like shit for a while so that I can step on a scale at a certain weight and then put 15 to 20 pounds of liquid and food back into my body. Like, that's not the healthiest thing to do, but I sort of consulted with him how to lose a little bit of weight healthy. He only made it to 18. PokerShares had a market up on this, and the line was just, I think it was basically over under 18 and a half, probably because Timex is smart and he did his homework on what Max was at. So he ended up losing that prop bet, but he said the journey was great. He lost a bunch of weight. Like, if you go to his Twitter and pull up his videos, like, I mean, he's in good shape. I think he only really lost the bet because of like questionable technique and strategy in doing the 20. You saw this, Daniel?
Yeah, no, for sure. I was rooting for him throughout, and I want to make mention. Actually, I talked to Jawanda about it too, and I want to make mention of one thing that I think is important. I think they bet $25,000. And John Jawanda, just to show, like, he did this to try to help out, similar to what Bill Perkins did.
Because he's done it before. Because, like, he knows it's not an impossible thing.
He won the $25,000, and he's donating it all to charity, which I think is really great. Because, like, it really just shows he wasn't trying to hustle. Like, he knows it's doable, as you said. But yeah, look.
Now you make me feel bad. I didn't donate Bill's money to charity. You make me feel. No, I'm kidding.
Dang it! I just folded the small blind while I was chatting, and I should have limped.
Oh no.
It's okay. We'll be fine.
Well, that's not as bad as the mistake you made earlier. Let's interrupt. Let's take a sidebar here about the pull-up thing to talk about what you did on your Twitch stream, which I found hilarious. I didn't watch all of your Twitch stream, but I skipped to the end a little bit when on the replay, and this was a really fun hand because, like, so for everybody context, Amanda was with you for like the large majority of it. You guys are chatting. She's hanging off your shoulder. You guys are talking and you're doing it live, so it's really important that you don't give away information about your hand. So you're playing cards down. You're not streaming face up with a delay. So like Amanda can't react to if you flop a monster hand, she can't react. You obviously you're on camera, you don't react. So a hand comes up where the board on the turn is like what is it? What's the board on the turn?
Board was 9-7-3-7 on the turn, and then a 7 on the river.
7 rolls off on the river, and as soon as the 7 rolls off on the river, you say you accidentally slip and you say, okay, so now there's 3 sevens on board, and you bet into the guy, and he raises you small, if I remember. I think you bet out for about like 3,000, and he. Oh
my God, I gotta go, guys. This I gotta close this out. I'll be back, but it's not letting me play because I have the Zoom open. So I will call back. Sure,
no problem.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah, because they think that you're like they've got some protective software. So what's happening now is that WSOP's got some protective software to know that the Zoom he's running Zoom and potentially could be screen sharing with somebody, and like somebody could be ghosting him.
Oh my God, I'm gonna feel terrible if we get him DQ'd from the event.
No, we won't. They're gonna know exactly what he's doing. I mean, like the WSOP people running it will know what he's doing. But like, it's funny that they have that built in.
Okay, so while he's figuring that out, I'll quickly mention. No, we'll keep on going.
Okay.
I'm also in another weight loss bet. Those that are new to the show don't remember. Bill Perkins came on our podcast back before we started doing it with Daniel and offered me a free roll when I was 227 pounds to get to 150 in 10 months and hold it for 8 weeks. So made that, went through hell, put on most of the weight, as Terrence mentioned a week ago, most of the weight back.
What are you at now? Are you under 200 right now?
Well, I'll get there. So Remco Remkema, our buddy, put out a challenge to anybody in the poker Twitter sphere, I guess, for anybody who wanted to jump in on a weight loss bet. And it's So 14 of us, a bunch of people you would for sure know, have, but I won't say who they are at no point. I'll leave that up to them. But we have to lose 10% of our body weight in 4 months. And for each pound that we don't make it by, you have to pay a penalty of $500. So I weighed in at 217. I thought it was like 210, 208 or something like that. I ended up just eating pizza and, being a slob, and I ended up getting it up to 217. So that was June 7th. It is weigh-in day tomorrow, actually. And we weigh in each month, and you've got to hit a target or you pay a penalty. So we're weighing in tomorrow. This morning I was 206. So if I don't make it, so I had to lose 21.7 pounds. If I don't make it, I have to pay, almost $11,000 in penalty. But I'm halfway there in 1 month. So looking good. I'm on the keto. Daniel's favorite diet, the keto. So that's working for me so far. I'll modify it as I get lower. But so working on that as well. Daniel, you're back.
I come back to hear keto. So this is actually worth discussing real quick. I was surprised this happened. I totally forgot. So the World Series of Poker, when you're playing, if you have anything like remote software open, which Zoom is, it was weird because it worked for a little while.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it says if you want to continue playing, you have to get rid of the remote software. But I did that. It didn't work on that. So I've got my other computer here, which I can see. So maybe I can share while we go some of the hands. So the good news is it was break. Well, I don't know how lucky I was, but it literally, I won the pot and it was on, it went to break. So we've got this.
They must do a periodic check. The software must sort of because it would take a lot of bandwidth for the software to check every single player all the time. So probably what they do is they've got it on a timer. Every so many minutes, we're going to check.
Great that they do it on the 55 because, for people that do get it, it's essentially disconnected. And we are in the money. I mean, there's only 110 players left. I'm sitting in 45th place and, I got a shot at a bracelet. So it really sucked. That podcast cost us big time. Not only do it fucking cost me when you guys lay you 100 to 1, then you also kill my bracelet chance.
So that one was, that's just bad decision making, and this is what we do in the poker world is we punish bad decision making. But I was going back to this hand, and I was watching your stream, and it was hilarious because the board was 9773 on the turn. Another 7 peels off on the river, and you say, well, the board just came out with 4 sevens. I mean, 3 sevens.
All right, well, there's 4 sevens on the board. So, and I'm like, no, there's not. I have one in my hand. You idiot.
Yeah. And if you're paying it, it's subtle. You don't immediately react to it. But that and the fact that you lead out into the guy, and then the guy raises you small, and then you raise him back small. I was like, oh, Daniel's got 4 sevens. There's no doubt about this. He just 3-bets the river. He's clearly on a, and it's it was just hilarious because you actually said your hand out loud on a live stream.
I caught myself immediately and was just trying to play it cool.
Yeah, you're just trying to play it cool, and that's really funny because it's a peril you think of. I mean, I'm sure that's a mistake that most guys like Lex aren't going to make that mistake because they've been.
Well, usually when you stream, most of the time you have a little bit of delay, so it's not even an issue. It's okay, big deal. For what? But I've decided because I want to try something new. Twitch already has an audience for this stuff, right? Everyone's there, they're doing that kind of thing. I want to kind of reach a new audience. How many grandmothers and grandfathers that are on Facebook that'll see the Facebook Live would never even know what Twitch is, right? Or being able to stream on Twitter and YouTube. It's just something different, something new that I think reaches a wider audience to do it this way.
So if you're out there, you're in Nevada and New Jersey, and you're playing at D Negs' table, you probably want to pull up his stream just in case he does something like that again.
It might happen, yeah.
All right, let's move on. So one of the things that people were talking about this week, and we'll get to the World Series of Poker here in a minute, but Mike Matusow was playing in event number 5. This was the 1K freeze out. He started up his, I believe it was a YouTube stream, and he started streaming the tournament, and it had just started. I think it was 1 or 2 hands in. He gets the big blind, and he picks up the ace queen offsuit, folds to the small blind, who is Megan Wolverine 17, is her screen name, Megan Milburn. And she opens in the small blind with aces. And Mike Mike obviously doesn't know this, but Mike has the ace queen, 3-bets, and she takes a little bit of time after the 3-bet pre. And because she's obviously trying to decide, is she going to 4-bet here, or is she going to flat and let him trap Mike on the flop. So she decides to take her time. She just takes her time and then calls. the flop is like 9-10-4 or something like that. She checks. He ships, like overbets the pot, goes all in, says, I'm going to put this person to the test for their tournament. And she thinks about it for a minute, as you normally would, and she calls. And she wins the pot, and Mike absolutely goes bananas, like just loses it. And I kind of want to be careful a bit here because, the first reaction is to be really mad at Mike and be upset with Mike with the stuff that he says, and we'll get to it. I think Ross has the clip. But it's also quite, it's your concern for Mike, especially, Daniel, who's a friend of his. I've played with him a couple of times, but I certainly don't know him. But you're worried for Mike because he's clearly not in a good space. And that's super clear when you listen and watch how he reacts to this. And Ross, do you want to play what he has there?
Sure.
Knock them the fuck out. Think I won't? Watch. They're scumbags. That's why. The new generation, listen, all you have to do is look outside. They're protesting the 4th of July, calling it racist. They're tearing down the country. They're fucking bred by disgusting human beings. These are low-life scumbag piece of shit people. They don't even know nothing about poker. They know zero. Okay? They want to fucking slow roll people. They want to fucking do all the bullshit. And it's just bullshit. I'm pissed off. I can give a fuck about $1,000. No, I could give a fuck. I'm pissed. I'm pissed because he's a motherfucker. I promise you I have his name written down. Look. See his name written down? I'm going to find out who this motherfucker is. And I swear to you, I'm going to throw him up against the fucking wall and tell him, you fucking ever slow roll me again, I'm going to beat your fucking ass. Nobody punked me. I fucking didn't realize it was a freeze out. That's all. I just woke up. I'm out in one hand. I thought it was a re-entry. I fucking woke up late. I was half asleep. Just ripped it in there because I'm like, fuck it, if he called, I'll just re-enter. He uses 3 more time banks and calls and shows 2 aces. This motherfucker slow rolls me. This is the new generation of punks. Total fucking punks is what they are. These are the people running around that are fucking electing our new officials. People that are destroying our country. People like that. I'll tell you what, I'll find out who he is. I'll tell you what, I'll lay $100 to $1. The guy's a fucking leftist, fucking anti-fucking American piece of shit. Want to bet? I'm on stream right now. I don't give a shit. If anybody in here can find the name of this guy and the actual truth of this guy, you guys will get an extra $50 bonus if you sign up in my home game. Let me see if I can figure out who it is. What's his name? Megan Milburn from New Jersey. Megan Milburn. Is that a girl? Camilla, that's a double check. Megan Milburn, huh? It's a girl, huh? Nice. Probably one of those fucking crazy leftist people yelling Black Lives Matter and you're all racist in the street. So that means she's probably some like 21-year-old lunatic fucking scumbag whose mommy probably gave her no love. Anyways, if you want to join my site and my home game.
All right.
A lot to unpack there.
I think we left out, or we didn't get a clip of probably the worst part where he says he'll put this person up against the wall and F them in the ass and beat the shit out of it. Like it was, I mean, obviously it's a complete meltdown and it's just really sad. And he also, after finding out it was, a female, and he sends a tweet to her. He gets her Twitter handle and sends a tweet to her, calls her as the C word. And like his rage is just completely out of control. And it's, I don't know. I think, we were talking about a little bit amongst ourselves in the chat about how somebody really close to him needs to kind of get a hold of him. And Daniel, you were saying that there's just it's beyond that.
Yeah, it's not really possible right now. Like, I want to share a tweet that Mike Gordinsky just posted, because obviously everybody's lining up to attack Mike, and similar to the Karen issue that we face right now. Like, and I tweeted, and I probably shouldn't have, but like, see somebody who's mentally ill having a breakdown in the store and acting like crazy, and it's like they're clearly got a problem. So Gordo, he wrote this tweet. He said, "Just a thought for everyone gleefully lining up to slow roll the mouth after his outburst yesterday. You're essentially tormenting a mentally ill human being for sport. What's the point? Seek to help, not harm," right? So now, obviously, some people are going to read that and go, okay, but is he really mentally ill? He doesn't say he's mentally ill, but people that are mentally ill don't know often that they are. So I tried to tell Mike, I said, Mike, it's obvious that you're deteriorating. You've gone down the rabbit hole. But when you're there, like, he genuinely believes right now that everybody else is crazy, And like, when you're dealing with somebody who is struggling like that, like, they think everyone else is crazy. Now, that's a sidebar to this whole issue right here, which, I've seen since he's sort of tweeted like, that's stupid. This is no big deal or whatever. Like, he's just out of touch with reality. Like, I'm shocked, frankly, that YouTube or Twitch is not banning him, because that's like, he literally physically threatened somebody, aside from the fact that, like, he didn't even know who the person was, right? And then it kind of gets me, because I'm thinking, like, you think you're going to beat the shit out of somebody? You can beat, like, 12-year-old boy or girl. Like, you've got zero. Like, it's just so strange that he went off like that. And I don't think we should sweep it under the rug, because it's about as egregious as it gets. Like, you're taking a random person you don't know, characterizing them, going on this tangent political rant. It's just weird. It just, here's the thing with Mike. For so many years, we just go, oh, that's Mike. He says stupid things. But, in the world we live in now, you need to be held accountable for the stupid things you say, even if you are having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, the really, paying money to dox someone, like, that's the part of it that's just absurd. Like, this is a person behind a screen name, literally goes out and says, "I will give you money if you tell me who this person is and give me information about them, so that I can publicly out them on my stream." He said that person.
And so he literally said, so I can fuck them in the ass.
Right. Exactly. Like, so, like this is. It's so far over the line. And, I had a couple discussions with friends. Daniel mentioned, like, he should definitely be taken off YouTube, the platform where it happened. YouTube, unfortunately, is rather poor. They don't really do anything about this. Twitch is a little more proactive about it. The interesting question is a lot of people brought up the discussion of whether the World Series of Poker should sanction Mike, and it's an interesting topic. I've discussed this with some personal friends, and I don't know which way I feel about it, because the official statement from Ty Stewart, and Adam probably has a quote up, so I'll let him quote, but it was something to the effect of, they don't want to go down the slippery slope of policing what people say on social media, which on one point I fully get that. I don't want people to be kicked out of the World Series or whatever for stuff that they say on their Twitter accounts or their Facebook accounts or on their Twitch streams. I don't think it's the place to do that. Do they have the commercial right as a private entity? Of course they do. Whether they should is another story. On the other hand, when you're talking about threatening physical violence, I think about it like this. If I just ran a store or something like that, and I had 2 customers in my store, and one of them was going on the internet and telling them how they were going to commit physical and sexual violence against another person, I might say, you know what? I don't want you to be in my store. I'd like to ask you to leave. So I'm sort of 2 minds about this. I don't know how strongly I feel one way or the other about whether the World Series should sanction Matusow for making violent physical threats, but not because if it happened in the Rio, that's clear, right? Like, if he walks up to a human being at the Rio and says the things that he said on stream, I think it's absolutely 100%. You need to throw this guy out for some period of time, if not a year, a lifetime, whatever it is. But because it happened on a different medium, it didn't really happen at the World Series. Like, I'm not sure myself how to process this, and I don't know if you guys have strong opinions about this one or the other.
Yeah, I have a super strong opinion here. I don't think anything should happen from the World Series of Poker. I think that's a really, really dangerous road to go down. And honestly, to be truthful, I don't trust the World Series of Poker to be consistent with how they would do that. I mean, all you got to do is look at poker writer John Mahaffey wrote a critical article about the World Series of Poker, and he got banned from the website. Yeah, I mean, it's just so.
But that's the thing. If you're going to ban somebody for being critical about the World Series of Poker, surely you can do it for saying, I'm going to knock him the fuck up and throw him against the wall and I'm going to beat your fucking ass.
For sure. I just hope that they don't do something like that. I think that's a slippery slope, and I hate that term, but it's just so impossible to try and dissect all of the different things that are said, especially as, Twitch streaming and YouTube streaming and Facebook and everything just sort of gets bigger and bigger and more people are doing it. Wow. Like, how do you sit down and just monitor that about what's going on at WSOP.com, like, or if they're playing? Now, like you said, if it happens in live, or they've disabled chat, which stops any of this chat abuse. So that's a good thing. But I don't know, Daniel, what do you think? Do you think he should get any penalty from the World Series?
Well, I thought Ty Stewart handled it really well, and he makes a very valid point, because like your first instinct is like, hey, World Series should ban him, right? And like that, seems logical. But then when you do open that can of worms, and you realize like what that really means now. Now they're venturing into policing, a wider world than they probably should, entirely. So I think their decision makes sense. Now the platforms themselves is totally different. Like, I do believe with YouTube, if enough people were to, report it, then the video will, the video of it will get flagged, and then the channel can be disabled. So it's not out of the realm that still could happen.
Yeah, I mean, it includes doxing. Like, this is personal information. He said her full name and her location on a live stream. Like this is like, doxing is a thing that is clearly, like, you can't have that on your platform. Now, I think the thing about is like I said, I don't strongly disagree with you guys about the World Series making the decision not to take action, but you can also make the very strong argument that this reflects poorly on them as a brand, that they don't do something. We're always talking about creating an environment that's conducive for people, like creating an environment where people can feel safe. Like, if literally all you did on the internet was you clicked some buttons in a period of time, and some maniac is going out there saying they're going to commit violent acts to you, and that happens, not necessarily on your platform, but while this person is streaming on your platform, I mean, I think you can definitely make a strong argument that is actionable.
Agreed. It's a tough spot, and I agree with the way they handled it. I guess we'll see how YouTube and others might deal with it. But getting back to Mike's mental health, I just and Daniel, you said this might be too late at this point, but hopefully somebody who's really, really close to him can.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. The problem is he's surrounded by people who are reinforcing this type of behavior and these trains of thought, and I think are feeding him. Like, he's surrounded by people that are like yes people that are telling him he's right. He's finding. Listen, if you search hard enough on the internet for whatever you believe, like, you will find things to back that. You can look up carrots cause cancer, and I'm sure you'll find an article or two that supports that. So it's really, really difficult. I've sort of, I guess, for all intents and purposes, given up. There's nothing I can really do. He's so set in his beliefs. And again, unless he is no longer surrounded by the people that are indoctrinating him with this kind of information and things like that, then I just, I don't have a lot of hope in this regard.
It definitely does make you like sort of feel bad. The Gordo post that you shared, Daniel, I think really should hit home, because on one hand, you kind of can't look away. It's the bad car accident that you can't look away from, right? It's why Jerry Springer is a household name in our society. Like, people love, disaster porn, for lack of a better term, right? I mean, and we are watching Mike slip into the sort of mental health disaster. At the same time, we've lost friends that are close to us due to mental health issues, and it's hard to see another human being go down that. And it's even more frustrating when, like Daniel, as you said, it feels like there's nothing you can do about it. It's a tough decline to see. We talked a bit on the show about how much we're going to talk about this, because on one hand we don't want to glorify it, because Mike said some truly horrible things, and we at the same time we can't ignore it, because it is a significant mainstream news story involving one of the most famous poker players of our generation, in the world, really, like certainly like a top 25 poker name in the world. But at the same time, you really hate to make a news item out of what is clearly somebody's mental health decline.
All right. yeah, hopefully he can. He did mention that he apologized to the player, so that's good, and hopefully they can get past it. Moving on, let's move on to the World Series poker stuff. That's where everybody's here for, I'm sure. But quickly before we get there, Daniel, there's some great promotions coming up at GG Poker for the World Series. I noticed one of them was deposit at least $20 and you get a $100 new sign-up bonus. You get 60 worth of free tournament tickets right away for the World Series coming up. Those are useful. You can get your way into World Series of Poker by only depositing 20 and maybe doing something with one of the tickets. But you also can claim an additional 40 in satellite tickets by completing daily all-in and full challenges for each of the next 6 days after you sign up. There's also a micro stakes series going on right now, and they have a Silk Road leaderboard with World Series of Poker tourney ticket prizes as well. And there was also some changes to the schedule, the GG portion of the World Series of Poker schedule, Daniel, that you announced.
Yeah, no question. First of all, touching on the Silk Road, I think it's pretty cool that obviously when you go to the World Series, they don't have $1 sit and goes to satellites, right? But online, you can do with the Silk Road super micro stakes to get yourself possible seats in bracelet events with mines as low as $50. But sorry, I was in a pot, so my mind was slightly tilted. But yeah, so the schedule. Well, I don't know. So a lot of people were under the impression that there was going to be 22 heats, ultimate reentry, people could be in for 100 bullets, in the main event, which has a $25 million guarantee, which is very ambitious. $25 million is no joke, especially when you factor in the fact that it is not unlimited reentry. Each heat is a freeze out, but in addition to that, if there's 20 heats, 50, it doesn't matter how many heats there are, you get 3 shots. That's it. You get your first bullet, you get 1 mulligan, and then your third bullet, and that's it. So you can pick and choose. I think the benefit of that is there's a lot to it. First of all, depending on what time zone you're in, you can sort of hand pick the schedule in terms of when you want to play it. The other schedule change that we made was subtle, which was moving the heads up. The heads up was on a Sunday, the 10K heads up, and we got some feedback from some of our ambassadors and other people saying, heads up is really hard to play when you're at 6 or 7 tabling, and not a lot of people are going to want to do that. So we moved it to Saturday. And then we were going to replace that with a $1,500 event on Sunday. So a couple changes based on feedback. Plenty of time to do it without people, looking ahead and saying, okay, I've booked my time to leave the country to play in this event. So if you're really liking the way it looks, starts on the 16th of July. I won't be going until August 1st. My wife and I will be flying, knock on wood, if everything is okay with international travel to Mexico. Remains to be seen with the spiking numbers here in the United States. So we'll see. If not, we'll survive either way.
might end up back in Toronto.
Yeah, that's definitely. I can obviously come back to Toronto being a Canadian citizen, and I believe I could bring my wife no matter what. We haven't looked into it. Haven't really thought about Plan B at this point.
Yeah. One of the other things I noticed was they made it easier for travelers who were leaving their jurisdiction to go somewhere where they can play on GG. There was a bit of difficulty in getting set up, but now
we had to make an update. Yeah, sorry, we had to make an update to the protocol because the protocol was always, to play on, GG, you have to show a permanent address and all this kind of stuff. But specifically for this and for, obviously what we're dealing with COVID, we had to make adjustments to that where it's not a permanent residency. You just have to show, proof of, not that you own the place or be there, like a hotel will work, an Airbnb. You'll just have to work with them in terms of what sort of proof of just that you're not in the United States.
All right, so let's move on to World Series of Poker Online Bracelet Series at WSOP.com. Event number 1 was the $500 No Limit Hold'em kickoff. 1,715 entries. So there was always going to be how many people are going to play. It's only Nevada and New Jersey. What are these numbers going to look like? 1,715 entries from 1,196 unique. So not a ton of rebuys. Obviously that's 500-ish. And the prize pool, 771,000. First place, 130,000. A lot of big names went for deep runs, including Matusow, who before his meltdown finished 44th. And Phil Hellmuth, I believe with 16 left, was the chip leader looking for his 16th bracelet. And Poker Twitter was going crazy. and he ended up going out in 11th when his queens lost to Sean Daniels Ace King. Tony Dunst was also another household name that went deep in that. He ended up finishing third, trying to pick up his second bracelet. The winner was Jonathan Dockler, picked up his first career bracelet, playing under the great name Art Vandelay. I dig that name there. Event number 2, let's go through these as quick as we can here. Event number 2 was a $1,000 no limit hold'em deep stack, 8-handed, 919 entries from 647 uniques, and it created a prize pool of 873,000. First place 168. Those having deep runs included our co-host here, Mr. Daniel Negreanu, who ended up busting out in 18th when your 9s ran into 10s. I guess you were short stacked, and you almost think those bracelet bets right off the hop.
It would have been nice, right? It was really fun to get into, to be in the groove and be in a deep run. I mean, I'm playing in my 6th event as we speak. We've got the Ace King of Diamonds 3-6. Raised it up under the gun. I just took a really sick beat in this PLO. I had Ace. I shouldn't be telling bad beat stories right now. But yeah, this is my 3rd cash out of 6. It's been nice to. I've actually also played every single hand. Like, I've not shown up late for any of the events. The only hand I missed was when I timed out with jacks in level 1. Because the software is not as user-friendly as I'm used to. So I was trying to type in, like, my 3-bet with jacks from the small blind, and as I'm doing it, it says, timed out, you're sitting out. So other than that, I played every single hand. I might have missed one hand also when I freaking was on this podcast right now, but I don't think so. So it's been a lot of fun.
No re-entries, right?
Well, we re-entered. In this one, we had the 3 bullets in the PLO, and then I did have a reentry in the Super Hyper Turbo. I had a couple in that. But up until that point, I had no reentries. It helps when you show up on time, because it's really, really small stakes, and there's a lot of bad players in these things. They're very small buy-ins. So you just sit there, you can play pretty much autopilot, and you're going to chip up a good percentage.
Guys will bet 3x pot into you with ace queen high on a 10 high board and your aces.
Oh, no, worse. Yeah, worse. Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about Helmy. My Matusow. There was a hand I literally 300 big blinds deep. 300 big blinds. Okay, the board is Queen 7-5-4 with 2 diamonds. Okay, I have the 6-8 of diamonds, the nuts with the redraw. I check raise this guy on the turn. He bets 2. I make it 6. He shoves 300 bigs. I think, oh shit, what? He's got like a set. He's got a flush draw. What do I got to fade? I call. He turns over the King 10 off suit.
Wow.
Complete. I was like, okay, so right off the bat, I'm starting the tournament with 600 bigs in a spot where there was absolutely, literally 0 risk.
So I'd be interested to hear what you think of the level of play, right? You've played on GG with the Sunday Masters, and you obviously played a lot online as well. How are you finding the level of play with the series this year?
I would say, obviously when you get deeper, the play is going to get better because it's more pro-centric. But like early on, the early stages, it's been a berry patch. Like it's been incredibly soft. Like,
well, how does it compare to the Live World Series? It can't possibly be that soft.
Much softer than the Live World Series. Much softer because we're I think it has it's a function of the buy-ins, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't play all the no limits there, but you
get a lot more hands per hour too.
Yeah, they feel pretty damn soft, and the structures too. Like, the rebuy period's very, very long, and the blinds start really, really slow. So for a good player, making the money becomes pretty easy. This is my 6th event. This is my 3rd cash because you're likely to have a stack. Now, obviously, later blinds go up really quickly and it becomes crapshooty, which is true of most tournament poker. But early, pros have a big advantage because it's really, really juicy.
We were talking about event number 2. Lewis Lynch takes down his first bracelet, and Jason Somerville finished in 6th. Final table, there were 27,000. Event 3 was the $400 no limit hold'em, 2,091 entries. Daniel, you mentioned your 3 cashes. You min cashed that one. A Twitch streamer actually won this while he was streaming, I believe. Robert Kuhn takes down his first bracelet. Event 4 was the $500 no limit hold'em Super Turbo, which lived up to his name. I think it finished in 6 hours. So pretty cool there. Matt Bodie wins his first bracelet. Event 5 was the 1K no limit hold'em freeze out we talked about that Matusow played and busted out early. 854 players Ryan LaPlante went deep. Your winner was Alan Chang. He wins his first prize at 161,000. That brings us to event 6, which Daniel is going to win and take down.
Well, I'm going to tell you the beat because I'm so annoyed.
Ben Collins bracelet.
I'm going to tell you the beat because I'm so annoyed. I had ace. It was all in pre-flop. I had ace, ace, king 5 against ace, deuce, jack, jack, which is what it is. But now the flop comes 10, 7, deuce. So I have the low draw with the ace 5. I have the best hand with the aces. So how can I lose this pot? Well, one way to lose it is a deuce on the turn and no low on the river. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, I could have lost with a jack or a deuce was the only cards. But if a jack or a deuce came, I still could win with any low cards. So pretty tilting. But we're going to be all in a second here on 9 bigs.
All right.
It'll be epic when Daniel is currently 81 of 82 remaining. OE Rockets is the guy he's ahead of in 82nd place.
Hey, Asai Ahmed. I know him.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be epic.
That's going to do it for the World Series covered. Let's jump into some tweets, Roscoe.
You're going surfing on the internet.
I got one this week. It's an old one, but it's from a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about real names on Party Poker final tables, and that's a thing that's going to happen during the World Series as well. But Niall Farrell at Feraldo87 Poker, always a great Twitter account, says, honestly, real name comps on Party mess with your head. You make a tight fold in a hand because the guy's named Colin Thompson. He's probably about 55, married with 4 kids. Then you look him up and he's 19 and he owns the account I Am Fucking Bananas on Stars. It's like judging people by their name. It'll be an interesting thing. Like, you're gonna get like a wide variety of real names. You're gonna make all these ethnic stereotypes about their age, ethnic stereotypes, age stereotypes, and it's like an interesting level because I think people have been used to trying to guess what people's screen names say about their play since like the beginning of online poker, right?
Yes. Mr. Unassigned, I'm outing you.
Yes, I am unassigned.
Have you got unassigned at GG Poker as well?
I do not have unassigned. You can sweat me. I'm at old man strength on GG Poker.
Nice.
That's because I am an old man now. Unassigned was an old Poker Stars term, which is why it's my name on Stars. It's what they used to call their inbox of emails that had not been assigned to a customer support agent.
Did you feel like an old man before you had kids, or did it happen as soon as you had kids?
That's a great question. I feel like I've kind of been an old man since I was about 25, spiritually. But I would say it started when at the end of my MMA career, when you're literally fighting for your life against 22-year-olds who just have all the energy in the world all the time. And I try to eat right and take care of myself. But kids definitely solidifies the old manness. Like now I feel like you get to play the old man card more when you have kids. I didn't get much older, but you get to play the card a lot more. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, and it accelerates as your kids get older and you start yelling at them to do things that your parents used to yell at you to do.
So the more you remind yourself of your own dad is a function.
Yes.
The oldness is a function of how much you remind yourself of your own dad.
No question about it. Danny, what were some of your screen names back in the day? You want to out yourself with some of the names before you were
paid to have a screen name?
I don't even remember what they were. Like I remember one which was Double Suited, which was one of my screen names because I was playing in a. That was
your Poker Stars nickname. That was your. I remember that because I remember I had access to that, and I was like, "Oh, that's."
I was looking to play the Omaha games, the Omaha 8 or better games. So I just Double Suited was a stupid name. I don't know. I obviously have accounts in a couple places, but I didn't. I really don't. There were no cool names.
Did you have an account on Paradise Poker or Planet Poker?
I did. I had an account on Planet Poker, Paradise Poker, back in the day. I even had a party account, but I don't even remember what any of them. You could like give me a day, a week. I would never remember what those names were.
Did you play, Daniel? Were you in the 30-60 party games when the 30-60 limit hold'em took off and Angelina and?
I played a little bit. Yeah, I played a little bit of the 15-30, 30-60 when that happened. But by that point, Stars was running like 100, 200, or they were getting close to it. So, yeah, I didn't play there much.
All right, let's move on to some mail, and we'll get out of here. We got some voicemails, Roscoe?
Oh, yeah, we do. I thought we were going to talk about these short deck hands.
Oh,
right.
we got short deck hands. Let's go. Terrence, We have a couple of hands. Sometimes we play. We're not going to play. These are Terrence's hands. The hands drop is for Roscoe, so we won't do the drop. But Terrence, you played some short deck in anticipation of the GG Poker short deck tournament.
I'm going to win a short deck bracelet. Actually, like I've been having so much fun playing short deck. I remember Daniel brought up a few months back about how the anti-structure really makes the game. And I think it's so true. It's a combination of so many things. It's like the anti-structure, the number of just the hands that you make and how close the equities run. Like, so the fact is that like two connected cards can pretty much make a straight a huge percentage of the time, and usually when somebody has a straight, somebody else has two pair or a set or something like that. There's just so much action. And I know that like I like to think of myself as this like intelligent, rational, robotic poker player, but really I'm as degen as anybody else, and I just really love getting all my money in, and with like a 52.3% edge. And if you really, really like getting like just piling chips in and being like 52-48 one way or the other, I think short deck is like the game for you, because that's pretty much just what happens all the time. Like I played for an hour yesterday and I ran $50 into 1,000. Not because I'm good, just because I just kept winning flips. But I did pick two fun hands that are really sort of fun to talk about from a game theory perspective, and I think they're really instructional. So the very first hand is I think it's a 5-handed game. So on GG Poker, I really like this. Short deck has only played 5-handed. On PokerStars, it's played 6-handed, but it seems to always be played short-handed always. And so one of the things is because everybody antes, the size of the pot is bigger when there's more money, when there's more people. But one of the things that I think is pretty consistent is that when you're under the gun 5-handed or 6-handed, most people, I think, limp with their entire range. And that's the case because you're usually not deep, unless you're deep enough just to open raise all in. So I have two black aces under the gun 5-handed, and I limp in, hoping that somebody raises, but instead everybody calls and the button checks. The flop comes Queen Jack 10. So I have essentially the blocker, two of the blockers, the nut straight, and a gut shot king. I think the best blocker hand would obviously be kings because that's also an open-ended straight. I have aces. I bet into the field, which I actually think is probably bad, betting into 4 players. But on the other hand, I'm also the only person who can sort of credibly represent ace king because I would also limp with ace king, whereas anybody behind me, if they had ace king, they would have raised it up themselves, because once one person's limp, you generally want to raise with ace king like that, and you probably also want to raise with queens. So I think this is probably fine to bet in the field. I don't know if you guys have different opinions.
Yeah, I do. I think that flop is way too bad for you because obviously, unless obviously you can represent the ace king, but you'd have to bomb it to get people to get off of a hand. And the problem is because it's short deck, there's not that many great cards in the turn. There's a lot of bad cards, like the board pairs a lot more often, like a queen, jack, or a 10. Even if you hit an ace in the turn, you're like, okay, am I happy about that? I don't know. And a king, might split it with, if a king comes, like you're not going to win a big pot there. You might be splitting with other people who have ace something. So, the chances of you being beat are very, very high on that flop. And if not, there's not a ton of good cards in the turn. So your mindset, I liked it, the idea that like you're repping ace king, but you would really have to do that. So like if the turn card comes a 9 or an 8 or a 7 or whatever it comes, if it doesn't pair the board, you have to just go ape shit all in and try to really rep the ace king, because you're right that anybody with ace king behind would probably raise. The question is, are these players good enough to fold king 9 and 8-9? And if you're playing, relatively low stakes, they're probably not folding those hands either.
Yeah, I am playing $1 ante, so it's not high stakes. Although $1 ante in short deck is, I think it's probably like the size of maybe like 2-4 or 3-6 blind, no limit. So it's like it's not micro stakes, but it's definitely not high stakes either. Yeah, like in retrospect, I don't love it. It's not the worst bet I've ever made. But yeah, I agree. There's not a lot of bad cards to come. I figure I could get
like
even
check raising all in might be good there.
Yeah, that makes sense as a bluff. Yeah, because you might get like a hand like queen jack to bet into you and then subsequently fold. Or
smaller straights, king 9s and 8-9s may bet there. And then you just jam, and like, how can they call, right? Like,
right.
They just never can call because you limped under the gun, and that's pretty common for players to do with ace king in this game.
Yep, I agree. Everybody's about 100 antes deep on this one. The turn is a 9, so now I can really start to represent ace king. So I bet again. Maybe I don't bet enough. I bet. I think that's about 2/3 pot on the turn, and that leaves me with I think we've got about $70 behind. So I bet $12 on the turn. My one remaining opponent calls. So we now have a board of Queen Jack 10-9. I have one remaining opponent. There is now $43 in the pot after he calls, and I think we both have about $60 behind. The river is an 8, so we have Queen Jack 10-9 8. No flush possible. And I don't know. I think the answer about whether to try to bluff to win half this pot, I think it was originally very clear to me. I'm not 100% sure. Do you guys have thoughts?
Well, I don't think you're even going to win half this pot. You're going to win half the pot. You're looking to win half the pot sometimes, but a lot of the time you're just up against a king. You don't have any kings. The king is a pretty live card. It's a good chance that your opponent has a king, and they're not going to be loving it. They're just going to call you on the turn. They're not going to raise you with just the king.
Right. So the question is, I have about twice the pot. I have a little less. I have 1.5 times pot behind. Do you bomb it in there trying to blow him off the king? And sort of, it's a game theory question. This is a thing that he knows that I know he can't have ace king. So I'm targeting a king. But is that enough for him to fold?
So what do you get? You're trying to get king, queen, king, jack, king 10.
Yeah,
to
king
fold.
X, whatever. I mean, he could have any king. It doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, you can't have. I guess, yeah.
Right, because he's the second under the gun limper. So okay, maybe. I mean, people will still limp with like king 9 suited, second under the gun after the first person limps.
It's actually it's a common what you're discussing. It's a very common theme in short deck where you're playing against capped ranges, and it's very important in a lot of spots to really push the envelope because it's so clearly defined. In regular no limit hold'em, when you say someone's range is capped, it's capped to like a wider range. In this game, it can be capped like simply they cannot have ace of king straight. They can have a king, but you have a ton of ace king combos in relation to how many combos that you would limp under the gun with. So it creates really interesting dynamics, as you said, where sometimes you have to like turn a hand like aces into a bluff here. Personally, if I don't know anything about the player whatsoever and I'm playing in a $1 thing, I'm far too concerned about them just saying YOLO and calling. So I probably don't fire bluffs. In a game like that, I'm probably looking to just small ball and like just have it.
Yeah. What about betting like half pot, trying to get like 2 pairs and sets and stuff to fold, but the guy can't raise you because he does have that capped range, and you.
I think that's really bad. I think because I think because if I had ace king, I'm putting him in because I'm targeting a king. Because like if you do have ace king here, you want max value, right?
You're never betting half pot with ace king, which is what you're representing. So you essentially eliminate that hand from your range. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. I do think you have to bomb it some percentage of the time with aces. I chickened out and checked, and luckily I still got half. But I was kind of thinking like, oh, this might be a really fun spot in the future. I only had 1.5 times pot left on the river, and I didn't pull the trigger. I think it would be really fun if we both had like 6 times the pot behind, and I bombed like 600% of the pot. Because it is
not a bad play. That in a spot like that makes a lot of sense. Then the question is this: if you really had ace king, would you
I
do
bet
that?
6 times the pot?
Are you really trying to get a king out, or are you trying to get them to call? So it's a fun meta game that you play when it comes to overbetting. It's really interesting.
It is really fun. I really like that I chose that hand. Should I do the other one?
Yes, let's do it. Okay. Let's go.
Let's fire up the other hand. So the other hand is another interesting hand where both guys know what the other guy's capped range is. So it's really interesting. So usually we only say what your hand is, what my hand is, and leave the opponent's hand a mystery. But this time I'm going to give you both because I think it's instructive. So we're only 3-handed right now. My opponent on this hand limps under the gun 3-handed, so there's only 3 players. The other player in between folds, and I check the 9-8 offsuit, which is not a very good hand. The flop comes king 8-8 with a flush draw, king 8-8 with 2 clubs. I do have the 9 of clubs, which matters some tiny amount. He checks. I bet half the pot or a third of the pot, and he calls. I think the sizing here I feel I'm okay with because king 8-8 is not a dry flop even with the flush draw. So that's why I bet 1/3 of the pot because I want to steal a lot of these 1/3 pot says. And the fact that 2 8s are on board is almost always going to be good for me as the button who checks his option because under the gun's not going to limp with very many 8s, whereas I'm obviously going to have a lot of 8s just with 2 random cards in the button/blind. But he calls. The turn is a 9, an offsuit 9, so we're at king 8-8-9 of a pot of $7. He checks. I bet half pot of $3.87, and he calls again. The river is a 9, which I didn't want to see because I already had 8s full of 9s, and now instead I have 9s full of 8s. So in theory, I lose to King 9 and Pocket Kings. But those hands aren't terribly likely at this point. It's an interesting thing. I block both quads. So my opponent leads out for 2/3 of the pot. He leads out for $8. Now, I think this is interesting, right? So from his perspective, I'm going to tell you right now, he has ace 9. Okay, so he called with essentially garbage on the flop. Maybe he had clubs. I'm not sure. Nope, he had ace 9 of spades. So he called with like ace high backdoor spade draw, which is probably a bad call on the flop. And he made runner 9s full of 8s. So he decided to lead out. From his point of view, he doesn't expect me to have pocket kings. I checked my option pre-flop, so I don't have pocket kings, so I can't beat him with pocket kings. If I pocket 8s, would I really bet the flop?
One question real quick, because I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. You know, we obviously, the ace in this game, so people know, counts as the bottom end of the straight, right?
Right.
But in this case, with ace 9 of spades and the 8 of spades out there, if it comes 6, 7 of spades, is that a straight flush or just a flush? Not that it's going to matter much because a flush beats a full. That's
a straight flush, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
That is a good point of clarification. I'm pretty sure a wheel straight flush is still a straight flush, yeah. So yeah, the implied odds of beating my kings full with his ace 9 of spades straight flush there. But this is interesting. So he has ace 9 of spades. So he knows that I can't have pocket kings because I didn't raise pre-flop. He knows that I can't have 4 9s because he has a 9 in my hand. He figures I don't have 4 8s because would I really bet the flop with 4 8s? So essentially from his point of view, 9 8 is almost the nuts. From my point of view, I have 8 9. I can only lose to pocket kings, which is possible. He could have slow played pocket kings on 2 streets. I cannot lose to quads because I have one of each one in my hand. And so this makes the river play really interesting. So he bets out for $8, which is about 2/3 of the pot. I raise small. I raise $10 more because I find it really hard to see what I can. At the same time, I don't think I'm ever losing this hand. At the same time, I can't see myself extracting value from anything other than a king because I block all the hands that I beat. He raises me back the minimum because he, again, figures, well, this guy doesn't have pocket kings and he doesn't have pocket 8s and he doesn't have pocket 9s because I hold the 9. And now I can't raise him back anymore because he really might have pocket kings. I call. This was a really little silly game of chicken where he bet $8. I made it $18. He made it $28. And I called and I thought, boy, that's a really weird hand. You don't see a lot of rivers played like that.
Yeah, those defined ranges in short deck is interesting.
Well, what's interesting there is if you could say like one of you two overplayed the hand, it was definitely you.
Yeah.
Because on that river, when he leads into you, like especially in a tournament, you could make us a case for just calling. Like there's not a lot of point in raising because, as you said, you beat. He's not calling you with any of his bluffs, right? And you certainly can't have those hands that are nutted, but he still can.
Yes.
Like he can have king 9. He could just play that king 9 just like that, or king king or whatever. But because you can't, I think that puts you in a spot where you have to be much more careful about not raising there and opening up the door for him to just stick it in your face. And then what do you do?
Yeah, I agree. It's I was hoping that maybe he has a king queen type hand, but I think you're right. It's weird because I thought immediately, well, I block an 8, I have an 8 and I have a 9 in my hand. How likely is it that he could possibly have king 9? But you're right. I mean, if king hand is literally the only hand that's going to if I'm never getting called by worse, maybe if I raise, but you never know. It's a dollar ante.
I mean, you could hope he's a bad player and just has an 8.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's the one hand. The one hand you can sort of like make a case for is the idea that like you're just targeting specifically like an 8.
Yeah.
But that's really it. That's the only part of his value range that he could be a thing where he just decides to bet the 9 because he thinks you're going to check back. I don't know.
It's almost the opposite of the other hand because in this situation actually we're really deep too. We're about 280 antes deep. So he could decide if he thought quickly enough about the whole chain of logic and thinking that I never check pocket kings pre-flop. And I never bet 8s on the flop. Like if he's right about those two assumptions, he could just go all in. I think that would be bad because I might just bet pocket 8s on the flop.
Right. So like obviously you're playing in $1 games, but if you were playing against Jason Kuhn and Ike Haxton or whatever, and you did that, they will punish you for that one.
Exactly.
Big time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some voicemails.
All right.
Email number 1.
Hey, DAT Poker Podcast. This is Michael from Kentucky. Wanted to call. I love the show. Listen every week. I love the show minus the 5 to 7 minutes that y'all burn up with the hockey nonsense every week. But other than that, great show. Kentucky basketball and horse racing, that's about it. We don't have hockey. But now my question, I'm planning on going out to Vegas for about a week or 10 days and just hanging out at one of the Caesars properties and grinding WSOP. Never done that before. Checked on how to deposit money. I know one episode earlier you guys said you could just go to the cage and they could put it in your account, so I'm hoping that works. But Adam or Terrence said something last week that kind of got me a little worried. Said something about you couldn't have multiple people playing on the same IP address. So I'm just curious if you guys know how that works for like hotels. If I'm staying at Caesar's property or, multiple people in the hotel, can we still play WSOP.com? So I don't need, if I need to make plans to be driving around in Las Vegas to find a Starbucks, that would be rough. So didn't know if you guys knew anything about that or not, or if you could shed some light on that for me, being this is the first time I'm going to try this. Anything you give me would be greatly appreciated. And hopefully it'll work out and I can get heads up with Daniel in one of the events and, put it on him. So we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys.
Nice. That's an awesome call. Thanks, Mike, so much. By the way, there is hockey in Kentucky. Daniel, do you have a Kentucky hockey jersey on?
No, but I wanted to go into 7 minutes of hockey because we forgot to. But I want to answer his question because it's important, for those people that are coming out. I have a buddy, Eddie, who's staying here. And so obviously he can't play on my internet. He can't play on my Wi-Fi. So what you can do is you need to have a cell phone, right? And your cell phone, if you have an iPhone or anything like that, you'll set up a hotspot and you can use that on your laptop. You can play on your phone. I wouldn't advise it. The software is not all that good to play on your phone. But if you set up a hotspot from your phone to your laptop, you should be okay. I'm not entirely sure if there is a carve out for hotels where, they've addressed that issue. So be prepared to have a secondary option, which is a hotspot from your cell phone. And then that way one person can play on the Wi-Fi if it's available. And if not, everyone plays on their phones.
I've seen both. So I've seen people complain that they've not been able to play from the same hotel. I've also seen that the Nevada Gaming Commission gave approval for Caesars to basically allow people to play from Caesars properties, and I know that is in effect, like that passed and that got through. But whether that's actually like a practical thing, like you would have to kind of go on Twitter and find out two people who are both staying, who are actually grinding from Caesars Hotel, and see if they've encountered any problems. Because I've seen kind of screenshots from people that have been saying that they haven't been able to play. I've also seen at the same time articles that Caesars has made a carve out, as Daniel said, for their own properties. So I mean, probably the safest thing to do is get an Airbnb instead of staying at Caesars.
Well, yeah,
private residence.
You are leaving yourself susceptible to like you said, Terrence. I believe you're right, but the technology actually working and
right.
Everything going right. As Daniel said,
I would get an Airbnb. Like if I were doing it, I would be at an Airbnb, be at a private residence. Cash to the Cage is available at Caesars and Harrah's, I believe.
Yeah.
So to answer the other part of the question,
make sure you have a lot of data because you're gonna need it for the hotspot, as Daniel said.
Email number 2.
Hey guys, Joe here. Huge fan of the show. I just want to touch on a couple things. I know you guys, most of you guys are Canadian, big hockey fans. So I'm curious if you watch Trailer Park Boys. Number 2, I'm currently trying to crack into the minor pro hockey level. Played 3 years of junior on Prince Edward Island, 4 years of college after that. So I'm just curious if I was playing at a minor level to where I'm done by noon or 1, could I play poker, small limits, and try and make some extra income that way because the minors isn't that great? I know you guys like it under a minute. Keep up the great work. Have a good day. Bye.
Boy, I don't know if that question could be any more tailored to
That's awesome. That's right in your wheelhouse. Joe.
Take it away, sir.
Well, yeah, Daniel. So I don't know. Was he specifically talking about playing World Series on GG? I don't know if he was, or if he was just talking about cash and making a little money on the side. But Awesome that he's playing junior. This is a story close to my heart because my brother started playing while he was playing in medicine. I was playing junior medicine. How he started. This was right in the party poker boom when I put a computer in front of him because he's a video game kid. He played GoldenEye for 20 hours a day. I put a computer in front of him, taught him some basic stuff about no limit hold or limit hold'em, and I said, "Here you go." And he went to the moon from that. But
it's safe to say he's the only medicine hat tiger who's ever played like 200, 400 on stars.
I believe that he would be the only one, yeah. But no, you can definitely do it. And if you things like Masterclass, we mentioned off the top, Daniel Negreanu's Masterclass in poker is a great place to start to learn and play some even no limit. Those guys playing junior make nothing. I mean, those guys, they're slaves to the owners of those junior teams. It's a joke how little they play. They do get some money to go to university and Canadian university and stuff like that after they're finished their junior career. But if they're not getting drafted, those guys are slaves. So, if he can grind out and play some micro stakes, that's what a great way to do it.
Yeah, and he also asked if we watch Trailer Park Boys, and I have to say,
what you talking about, you man? Last I heard, he was stealing meat. You know what I'm saying? Which is already whack.
Reminds me of it. Brian Burke on Hockey Central. He tells a story all the time. He's talking about a guy, an NHL player who. He's kind of like a fourth line. He doesn't make a lot of money compared to the other guys. And he's playing, in the high stakes game on the plane. So Burke, he pulls the kid and he goes, "Kid, you can't afford to be in this game, He's like, "I'm going to have to pull you from the game. You can't play." And he's like, "Brian, they're so bad. I'm killing the game. I'm making more money doing that than I am in my freaking salary. You can't pull me." So he's like, "All right, go ahead. You can play in the game."
Who was that a Canuck? I vaguely remember that story. I'm trying to remember who that was. I know he might have outed it, and I can't remember.
It's a Russian guy. I don't remember, but it's so funny because I've heard the story like 10 times, and I completely forgot who he meant.
Can we make like a starting 6 of NHL poker players? Is that possible? Like, what would the starting 6 of NHL poker players be?
Well, you got Luongo in goal.
Yeah,
you got Kessel. You got Kessel on right wing.
Luongo's been listening to the pod and watching the streams and all that kind of stuff. He's totally into it. Yeah.
You know what? We were lucky enough to interview Luongo at the World Series of Poker. Mike and I back in the old podcast. We did a half an hour with him. He couldn't have been a nicer guy, and he indulged Mike and I as Canuck fans and answered some great stories. So he was great. So you got him in goal. You got Kessler
Travis
right
Green
wing.
in the middle.
Travis Green could be a center. You got you got Scatcherd on left wing.
Korea. There's a bunch of wingers.
We need some D. We have no D.
We need D. We got no D.
Well, that Marty McSorley.
Oh,
I guess.
Yeah.
Marty.
Okay.
Rob Blake's another one. McSorley and Blake. So those
nice.
two.
We could throw a winger back on D if we need to. There you go. All right. Thanks to the man from Kentucky. We got some more.
Where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
Paul in South Jersey.
Email number
3. Hello, podcast. I love the show. My name's Paul. I live in South Jersey, 37.5 miles from the surface parking lot of the Brigada. Now, I know we all remember, winning hands and losing hands behavior, but is there any particular behavior after a winning hand that you really wish you could apologize or, get those 5 seconds back? Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Yeah, for me, that's a not really, man. I just had this conversation because I've been obviously talking a lot about celebration and celebrating. And I'm like, it is what it is. Like, I'm a big believer that celebration is important in poker and showing emotion and all that kind of stuff. And like, I feel like there's a trend towards I'm too cool to celebrate. Like I remember Kelly Minkin being deep in the World Series and she won a pot like for her tournament life. And she just went, yes. And then like minutes later, she's, "I'm sorry guys. Sorry about the celebration." I'm like, sorry? What's wrong with that? Like the way that I see it is this, like Tiger Woods, like anybody who wins an event, you give it the big cheer, you give it your all, then you go to the person who came in second or whatever and you give your condolences. But you get your moment to shine. And I can't imagine, overdoing it. I mean, unless you're like sticking it in the person and going, eat it, that's, which I don't do.
Well, this happened with like, I think the current situation was like a reaction to like the Havad Khan, Umberto Prenez, like the sort of that mid 2000s, over excessive celebration. Like we had a rule at the World Series. Remember, you remember this, Daniel? Like Jack Eiffel would warn us before the start of every tournament about excessive celebration being penalized with a penalty. And so we got to the point where we had excessive celebration, and now we have underwhelming celebration as a response to that, because I mean, I don't mean to pick on Havad Khan. From all I'm told, he's a really nice guy, but like, he was really over the top back in the days, and a lot of that he admitted that he was doing it for TV, and he was going over the top for TV, and he wanted to make the sponsors happy and all that kind of stuff. So we're now at a point where.
What the great thing about Havad was, the thing I enjoyed Havad Khan, I thought he was hilarious. Havad it wasn't directed at his opponent. He would like fist pump and do all the things, but it wasn't like in your face to his opponent. That's the stuff that bothers me a little bit when you go after a guy you just beat or something like that. Havad would just, cheer himself on more than anything.
Yeah.
I have one that I regret to this day, and Terrence, you know this person. Back in the day when we started playing poker and in the limit hold'em games here in Vancouver, he played for a long time. It's older Japanese man. He was the nicest guy you've ever seen in your life. He would come and lose a couple $1,000. He was super rich, didn't matter. He would come and just smile at everybody and happily lose the money and make for a great game. And I'm sure, Terrence, you know who I'm talking about. But anyways, one day we're playing, and he and I were quite friendly. And one day in a game, he beat me on the river. And he would always ask what you would have, even if he beat you. He didn't care. He just wanted to know. And you tell him, because it didn't matter. You tell him what you had. So he beat me in a 2-outer or something in some giant pod, and he goes, "Did you have me beat before the river, Adam?" And I looked at him. I said, "What do you think, Kenji?" Of course I did, and I regret that to this day, because it was such a snotty thing to say. It was just one of those things in the moment, a big pot, and 20 years ago, I still remember it. I just cringe thinking about it. But
that's the meanest thing Adam Schwartz has ever done to anyone. There it is, right there.
No. Well, specifically, I've done mean things, but specifically to him, because he didn't deserve even a little bit of it, and I shouldn't have been a.
Fair enough. If that's the worst thing that you can do, that's the worst. I don't have any major regrets either. I mean, I've tried to always just kind of win quietly and kind of try to act like you've been there before. Do the that's the thing for me. Daniel talks about the sort of like there's you should be able to celebrate, and I agree with that. I think it's totally fine if anyone celebrates. But to me, the attitude has always been like, act like you've been before. Everybody likes the wide receiver. He just catches the ball and he drops it and hands it to the referee, and just puts the 6 points on the board like it's his job. That's kind of
how I've always. Does this mean we're out, Daniel? Is this walking around mean we're out?
Oh no, I'm good. I know I'm still in. I had to go take care of something real quick. Somehow I'm still in this thing. There's 61 players left. I'm in 52nd place right now, so we were in a spot, and I got ace deuce deuce 7 in the big blind. We were probably. Actually, we're just going to see a flop. We're going to play small ball.
Okay, let's see what the flop. Tell us the flop. Play along at
10 bigs right now. 72K behind, 8K in the big blind. It's been raised in the cutoff. There we go. Raising the cutoff, button calls. We're definitely going to take a flop with this one, but I got enough chips where I don't have to go all in. So I'm going to call. All right, the flop is 8-4-8. I don't love that flop. So I have like the 2 deuces, which is nice. And I have a deuce 7 low. There's 2 diamonds. I don't have any diamonds. My ace is no good for high. If anybody bets here, there's too good of a chance that they have like deuce 5, 3-5, anything like that for low. So, I guess I'm just going to have to check fold. The guy bet 24K into 52. But we're going to move on to fight another day.
All right. Next voicemail, Roscoe.
Okay.
Email number
004. Hit my thumbs up on the low. Hey guys, love the show as always. This is Dan from Massachusetts.
Oops.
My question is for Daniel. Let's say it is the middle of 2021. There is a COVID vaccine and everything is back to normal. Sort of almost take COVID out of the equation, which I know is really hard to do. What does your poker future look like? Are you going to kind of continue to pursue high rollers and high roller titles? I know you love the World Series, so you'll always play that. And I know you want to play a Triton event in the future. But what does your future look like? Do you think you'll play more in Bobby's room? Do you think you'll go the Helmuth Esfandiari route and play more in some private games with people you enjoy playing with? Just what's the future of Daniel Negreanu look like poker-wise? Thanks, guys. Great show. Bye.
All right, Dan.
Good question. And I will say this. The fact that COVID did happen has changed my answer. Because as a result of the COVID happening, I started playing in Bobby's room online because we have a private game that we play there and playing mixed games there. I've sort of fallen in love once again with online poker and really just enjoying, the grind of it and, playing these tournaments and stuff like that. Obviously promoting GG Poker consistently. High rollers are still, what I get psyched up for. The World Series of Poker is always on my map as being where I put 90% plus of my live poker action. That's always going to be the case as I pot from the small blind. Or should I pot?
Oh, play along at home. Let's go. What do you got?
We got ace 3 of spades, 4, 6 of clubs in the small blind, making it 3x to 24K. We've got 40 back. And the guy in the big blind's name is Megalomaniac. But, so I can play the hand and answer the question too. So we, my plan is to continue to kind of do what I was doing, but certainly not travel as much, All right, the flop is 10-7 deuce with 1 club. This is go time. We are betting it all.
That's a good flop.
That's not low draw with a pair?
Offer if it'll let me bet. Got to type it in. All right, cool.
Not low draw with backup?
Not low draw, ace high. He's got 3 kings. Oh, he's got kings full.
Oh.
Shit. Oh, you didn't have kings full. Fuck. You just fucking, oh, damn it, I'm busto. Oh, well. 59th out of whatever for a grand total of, how much money did I get?
Looks like 59th is $1,304.47. Did you break even on the day?
Where does it say that on my thing? It's supposed to say that. Oh, there it is.
On the top right, 1,300.
1304. So that is officially not a break-even day. We're in for 1,800. 59th, huh? Damn. I mean, shit. Ace 3, 4, 6 double suited in the small blind. What are you gonna do? The guy actually had king 6, 8. Double suited. Fuck. All right. Oh well. We out. No big deal. On to the next one.
All right. Well, that's a shitty way to end the podcast and the tournament as well. But you managed to last right till the end of the pod. That's going to wrap it up for us this week. Thanks so much to you guys for getting together. Thanks to you out there for watching. There's a ton of stuff on Daniel Negreanu's feed this week, including this podcast. Check out the live streams as well. And Roscoe, if they want to leave some voicemails, we're out of voicemails. Who wants to leave one? Where are they going to do that?
Yeah, we are out. Look in the description of the podcast or the YouTube, but also call 1775-434-2932. You can also interact with us on Twitter, of course. We're all over Twitter. And send emails to datpokerpod@gmail.com.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. We will look forward to getting together again next week. Daniel, sorry it ended that way, but run good this week.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
Later.